Finding a proper signal chain was not an easy task, mostly because these pedals can easily be swapped around. Apart perhaps for the Dimension Blue Monger, because modulation is usually placed at the end of a signal chain. But not always. It depends on the style of music you play or your preferences. Also, here we have two overdrives, but the Blackberry could easily be used as a preamp. And talking about that, the Blue 360 amp in a box is based on an acoustic preamp, but it has a mini switch on the side that turns it into a fuzz. And I usually like placing the fuzz at the beginning of the signal chain. So it took me a while to figure things out and decide in what order I would put the pedals. Although tomorrow, I might do something completely different. Or not. Okay, let's just dive into the review. Welcome back to the Weather Bass. I bought the Hookers Green Bass Machine 4K, or just 4K in short, some time ago and posted some photos and audios on Instagram and YouTube. It's a lovely, aggressive, full-sounding little overdrive that I really enjoy using. And at that time, I just wanted to share my enthusiasm. However, One Control USA got in contact with me to ask if I would be interested in checking out other pedals. So they sent me the Blackberry, which is kind of a hybrid between an overdrive and almost a tone enhancer for bass. The Blue 360 AIAB, which I already said is based on an acoustic preamp. Yes, we are talking about a sound coming out of amps that we're using at that time. John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, that you might have heard of, or John McVie from the early days of Fleetwood Mac. Does that ring a bell? Or even a guy called Jaco Pastorius, I think it is. Well, if you don't know him, I don't blame you. I didn't know anything about him until I discovered this pedal. But anyway, the important thing is that their sound is what inspired this little pedal. And last but not least, the Dimension Blue Monger, a chorus flanger modulation device. The color and mix knobs are easy to understand. Color is basically a tone that cuts off the highs of the effect, and the mix knob is basically a blender between the dry and wet signals. The complexity ranges from a chorus with the depth and rate turned down, all the way up to an effect that seems to add layers, sounds more like a flanger, however with the rate turned up. The good things about it are that the lows remain intact, even with the mix knob all the way to wet, and that it's not your typical chorus effect. It brings something quite different and musical to the table. The main concern I have with this pedal is the time the effect takes to function. There's a slight delay from switching it on to hearing it, almost like if it was taking its time to create the chorus effect. So it's not a problem if you're using it at the beginning and throughout a song, but if you do want it to work instantly, then you might want to look at another option. However, this is a minor detail surpassed by the sweet sound of this intuitive and simple to use pedal. Transience and impact when playing bass with an overdrive is important, to say the least. That's why we rely on blend functions, especially at high gain when the signal can be a bit muffled. However, even without a blend knob, the 4K achieves a good balance between transients and this overdrive muffled sound, making it a lot of fun to use, especially at mid-gain, because it gets nasty, but yet still feels like you're playing bass. Treble works great. It slightly boosts or cuts the highest frequencies, whereas the low boost can mostly be felt on an amp. On an audio interface, it doesn't make that much difference, though you do hear it. Also, what I like about this pedal is that both EQ seems to be post-gain. That means boosting the lows won't affect the saturation, but rather the outgoing signal, which is totally the contrary to what the depth knob does on the Blackberry. I think the best way to summarize what this pedal does is it warms up the sound with the depth knob and adds some focus with the body knob. The gain is there to add dirt or saturation when the depth knob is turned up, making this pedal sound like a warm tube amp that's breaking up, that's saturating. Just a small detail that I forgot to mention. I said that I believed the EQ was post-gain in the 4K, whereas the depth knob is definitely pre-gain because it affects directly the amount of saturation in the pedal. So the more you raise it up, the more saturation there is, especially if the gain is turned all the way up. It can also act as almost a clean booster in the mids with the body knob turned up and the depth knob turned down. In this case, the gain knob barely brings distortion, but it does feel like the signal is being slightly compressed, resulting in a bass sound that pushes through the mix. What surprises me the most about this pedal is how loud it can get with the volume knob turned all the way up. This could easily be plugged into the return of the insert loop of an amp or directly to an active speaker. Even with the EQ knobs set to noon, this is the kind of pedal that instantly makes the bass sound better, in the sense that it sounds fuller and richer. So if you are searching for the acoustic preamp sound, this is a pedal to look out for. Oh, and the fuzz side with the minus 18 dB switch turned on turns this little pedal into a fuzz monster with EQ. And that's super interesting because it allows you to push the preamp to its limit without having this massive amount of volume coming out of the pedal. So volume is really a mixture between volume and gain. It's almost as if you were pushing the signal into the gain stages of the preamp. Right, this is all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember that the Blackberry will make sure that you're not only felt but also heard. The 4K is a lovely little overdrive for bass, especially at mid-gain. The Blue 360 is a surprisingly good sounding preamp. And the Blue Monger is a unique chorus. I'll see you in the next video. Check out my Instagram account, the Weather Bass channel. And that's it. Bye-bye.